My name's Emile. I run a growing franchise network, and over the last few years, we've implemented AI tools across our systems from lead handling to operations. And I've seen firsthand how fast this space is evolving. In this episode, I'm going to show you how AI is reshaping franchise systems in 2026 and what you need to understand if you're buying into one. Because AI isn't just a tech trend, it's changing speed, margins, training standards, and competitive positioning. And franchise brands that ignore it will fall behind. So I'll walk you through the 5 key major ways AI is impacting franchising so you can evaluate systems properly and prepare for what's coming next. Let me ask you something. If you are a copywriter and you write blog posts, if you're a video editor and you edit videos, if you're a lawyer and you draft agreements, are you a little bit intimidated in 2026? I mean, with everything accelerating in AI, it's a little bit scary where the world's heading. AI is coming and it's coming very fast, and it's going to be taking away a lot of jobs, but it's also got massive advantages, especially when it comes to franchising systems. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 5 shifts that AI is bringing into franchise systems and what you need to know about it. Because if you're looking at exploring a franchise, you're going to want to ask the franchisor what's happening in the AI space, because that's going to be a massive competitive advantage for franchise brands. So let's get into today's episode. So my first point, key point number 1, is make sure you're choosing an industry with long-term demand. If you're looking for a franchise right now, you need to really ask yourself, is the work or the service that I'm providing going to be available for the next 5 to 10 years, or is it going to be automated or replaced with AI? And I don't think people are thinking about that. They're looking at profit, they're looking at, location, expandability, what's the potential in the territory. But actually ask yourself, is this work still going to be in demand in 5 or 10 years' time? Because that's going to play a massive role in the success of your franchise, or even if it's your business. And I'll give you a really good example. I was reading a book one day, and there was a story, and this is a real thing, a guy that had a newspaper company, the old Telegraph papers, the physical papers, and every single year, his business was declining by 20%, right? Newspaper deliveries, they were declining by 20% every single year. And he couldn't figure out why it was declining. He was doing his marketing, he was doing his routes, but the papers just declined year over year, 20% for the last 5 years. And then someone said to him, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just people don't want physical newspapers anymore. It's all online. It's all digital. The reality was he was staying in a business that was slowly deteriorating and dying. And I'll give you another really good example. I grew up in a corner store. My dad used to run a corner store. It was called All Foods Elwood in Elwood. And in the 1980s, his corner store was killing. He had customers coming in. It was turning over, massive revenue. It was all cash back then, thanks to the ATO or the lack of the ATO. It was all cash back then, and he was doing very well for himself. But he noticed it changed. After the 90s, there was a drop in customers and a drop in revenue. Do you know why that was? Coles started opening up around him. And do you know what Coles was offering? Coles was offering payment with credit cards. My dad's family never offered credit cards. It was only cash. So Coles was offering more payment options. You know what else Coles was offering as they started to get bigger? Delivery, click and collect, Uber drivers delivering at 11, at midnight, at 1 o'clock. And he couldn't compete with that. People were going to Coles to get their things instead of coming back to the local corner store. And every single year, sales started to deteriorate, sadly, because, my dad and his family never changed their ways, and Coles started to really advance their technology. And unfortunately, they had to close the shop. But that story shows you, when you're coming into a franchise, make sure the work you're doing or the service or the product you're offering is going to be in demand for the next 10 years. And luckily, we're working with kids. I think we're safe in that department, unless Elon Musk creates an AI robot that's going to coach kids. But our service is going to be in demand for the next 10 years. Let's move over to the second key point. Key point number 2, AI is going to widen the gap between strong franchise brands and weak franchise brands. Now, I know there's all this debate on AI and people are complaining it's replacing jobs. How can you use it? How can you like it? Guys, as a business owner, the reality is, and as any franchise owner, AI is just a competitive amplifier. The franchise brands that are looking at ways to implement that AI into their business is just going to make sure they have a bigger competitive advantage than other franchise brands. That's all it's going to do. It's going to widen the gap in terms of a competitive landscape. And I'll give you an example of a recent implementation that we did in AI. We've got Mia, who is an AI receptionist that can now answer inquiries, right? So if you go call up the number, Mia can answer, finding your class nearby, makeup classes, trial classes. She's been programmed to teach, to learn everything in the business. And right now she's solving 70% of phone calls, meaning if somebody calls up, there's a 70% chance that Mia is going to solve them, 30% chance that it gets escalated to the human. Now, Mia works 24/7, 365 days a year, and she doesn't take annual leave either. So imagine if I've got Mia and weekends are happening and people are calling the lines on weekends and there's someone answering the phone call versus a company that doesn't have Mia and during the weekends they're closed and on Monday they have to answer all their phone calls. Who's going to have a competitive advantage? Who's more competitive in that landscape? We are. That's a great example of what I'm trying to say, where all AI is going to do is it's going to widen the gap between those that are implementing it and those that aren't, and it's going to give those franchise brands that are using the technology a massive competitive marketplace, competitive edge, which is going to ultimately give them more market share. And another example that we're using AI is we've got a chatbot that can answer any questions on our website. You know, trial classes, makeup classes, how much is this program, where's my nearest class, is available 24/7 and parents are using it all the time. So remember, don't be threatened by AI, just understand that the use of that technology is going to give brands a more competitive edge in the marketplace. Let's move over to the third key point. Hey, just quickly, if you want to see if there's an available territory to own a Little Boomers basketball franchise in, click the link below to our map and see if there's a location near you. Key point number 3, AI is going to force franchisors to level up their training. Now, the thing with AI, I think that's what's scaring a lot of people is there's so much AI coming at us. You know, you got ChatGPT, you got Gemini, you got Grok, you got, all these different AI tools available. Where the real opportunity is going to lie for franchise brands is not just implementing it into franchise brands, but it's the training that franchisors provide, because that's the main element of this. Anyone can implement it, right? But it's really how to use it, how to actually use it. Proper training from franchisors to actually use the technology, right? It's the implementation and also training of the technology. I think that's where the golden nuggets really are. And I remember in our Boomers Leadership Conference last year in October, we had a section there on how to really use ChatGPT to your full potential. And I took the franchisees through a bit of a training series where I showed them how to use project files and how to create custom prompts so that ChatGPT can better answer their questions. And the franchisees really enjoyed those sections of the training, because a lot of people just use ChatGPT. They say, hey, help me with this. And ChatGPT has no idea what context, how you want the output, what your style is. So we took the franchisees through that workshop, and a lot of them are now using what they learned in the Boomers Leadership Conference. So I think that's going to be important for franchise brands, which is how are they implementing training to use the technology. Let's move over to the fourth key point. Key point number 4, AI is going to automate repetitive tasks so that franchisors can focus more on the human touch to franchisees. Now, Greg Nathan, right, is a very big leader in Australia in the franchise space. He has this good quote: franchisors are in the relationship business. And he's very true. The success of a franchisee is based on the relationship that they have with head office and with the franchisors. What AI is going to allow companies or franchisees to do, and franchisors as well for that matter, is automate repetitive tasks so that they can focus more on the human touch of franchising. Franchisors contacting franchisees, speaking with them, finding out what their needs are, hosting training sessions, hosting conferences. That's the human element of franchising, which is very important. And I think that's one of the big elements of AI coming in, and that's how I'm looking at that technology. How can we remove the automation so that we can focus on more of the human touch of working with our franchisees, which is really important. Key point number 5, AI will reward speed and data-driven franchise operators. What do I mean by that? The key to making good decisions in business is having data, right? AI is going to give you that data quicker so that you can make better decisions in your franchise. So for example, with our franchisees, we've got key data metrics that we look at all the time. Renewal rate, how many of your customers are coming back? Churn rate, how many customers are leaving every single term? And then you've got how many kids you've got in your preschoolers, your minis, your littles, your mighties, to determine which program is popular, which program isn't popular, what your customers like. And every franchise is different. Every territory is different, right? The demands of every territory is different. So it's so important that you get this data to make better decisions. And what AI is going to do for you is give you this data so that you can make decisions faster. And the other thing that it's going to do that is a huge competitive advantage is it's going to allow you to get back to inquiries and leads faster. Everybody that knows me knows I speak about speed to lead, right? And there was a study, I'm going to read this study out. Listen to you. I want you to listen to this. So there was a study where it looked at all companies and how quickly they respond to new inquiries. And companies that responded within 5 minutes, so a customer inquired about the product or service, whether it was phone call and email, companies that responded with 5 minutes were 100 more times likely to connect with the lead compared to responding after 30 minutes. A 100 times difference. If anything you can do in your business gave you a 100 times effect on business, would you do it, yes or no? Absolutely, but not many people do it. 21 times more likely to qualify the lead compared to responding after 30 minutes. So you're able to qualify the lead faster. Now listen to this. Response drop-off is dramatic. After 5 minutes, the odds of contacting a lead begin to decline sharply. And that makes sense. The customer's no longer interested, or they've got other things happening in their life. They send an inquiry form and now the kids are happening, or they've got a phone call about this, whatever it is. The first hour is critical. Responding within the first hour significantly increases contact probability compared to waiting longer. So you have a higher chance of getting a hold of your contact or your customer within an hour than after an hour. Now look at this. The study showed that most companies respond too slowly. Average response times in studies were often measured in hours, sometimes even days, meaning companies were getting back to potential business after days, and then they're complaining about why business is slow. So look at this study. It showed you that there's 100 times more likely probability of winning the business if you contact them within the 5 minutes. And with AI, you can implement tools with AI like Zapier and other tools where you can get in touch with your customers within five minutes. And that is a massive competitive advantage. So the final question, team, and this is your one takeaway. If you're coming into a franchise and you're exploring a franchise, one question to ask to the franchisor or the person that you're speaking about is, how are you implementing AI into your franchise business to make your franchise more competitive? That is a fantastic question to ask a potential franchisor. How are you implementing AI in the business to make sure your franchisees are staying competitive? Make sure to put that on your list of questions to ask. Team, with that being said, that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of it. Put in your suggestions in the comments. As always, hey, spread the love and or spread the hate. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.